What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pro Polishers Academy, where we help paint correctors like you turn your systems into consistency by moving you through the learning curves faster, utilizing formulas that work without fail. I'm Smitty, and I'll be your lead instructor. Let's get into it. So in today's inner game call, we went over a topic called old dogs and new tricks. Now, anytime we've heard this old adage that it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, it's typically about older folks or people who've been stuck in their ways for a while. But I'm here to tell you that I know some younger guys who are in their teenage years or early 20s who are definitely some old dogs. And in regards to paint correction, it's guys who don't want to shift into a new system, whether it be how to polish, how to do paint correction, a new technique in general, maybe even stepping outside of the garage and now having to sell the product. You know, that's a whole new world, and some people don't want to be shown any new tricks. So check out this call and let's see what you think about it. Good morning, guys. Happy New Year. I'm excited for today. A lot of guys are potentially sitting at home and chilling out, you know, getting back to it tomorrow, but we couldn't wait to get in here today and make it happen. So today we were talking about old dogs and new tricks. And in 2025, you do not want to be the old dog. So we've heard this old adage before plenty of times. And if you've been in the detailing world for a while, you know that this is quite true, because we see so many people who cannot get with the times or accept new systems. Typically, this theory is applied towards physically older people. But an old dog doesn't have to do with physical age. It has to do with experience and systems. So anybody who's got something that they can't shake and you can't teach them anything, you can hit them with that label, that old dog label. So I've seen plenty of detailers, and I've had a few younger guys on the team in the past who were unwilling to shake the systems and the mindsets about detailing that they've learned in just a few months or a few years. And like I said, you can have that, you can get that badge of approval as the old dog, because nobody can show you anything new. You know, you watch YouTube, you get one system down pat, and now when you find out another system might even be a better system, and you know it is, and you're fighting against it because we really don't like change. Like, life is all about change, but the human is probably the one thing that doesn't want to shift with it. So I've seen guys literally go to perform a task that I would have them to do, and I could see their mind stop their body. Like, they would stop themselves literally as they're reaching to do what I told them to do, and they say they can't do it. And I'm like, well, why not? I already know why not, but it's like, man, you got to break out of this system. You know what I mean? Like the way you ceramic coat here is not the way you ceramic coated there, because number one, the product is different. Number two, the temperatures are different. You might have been in a different state, different altitude, different humidity, but because you feel like that's the only way, and because you've done that for quote unquote so long, again, it could have just been a few months. But in their minds, it's like, hey, this isn't how I was taught. But who said the way you were taught was right, and who said that was the only way? You know, so the inability. So we're going to go over the effects first of what happens when when you're an old dog. So the inability to grow with the team. You're unable to see the next dimension in the vision. You cannot wrap your mind around what everybody else is on, what the mission statement is for the business that you're working for, or even your own business. So you can't even build a team because maybe your teammates see some gaps and some flaws, or the guys working for you, they see gaps and flaws in the system, and they're like, hey, maybe I worked here before, and we can take and implement this strategy into your business, and it'll work. And they can't accept it. They don't want to accept it. And then you then have no next dimension, no opportunity in it. You know what I mean? Because you just can't switch from the level that you're on. You may say that you're all in for what's next, and you may be talking about going to the next level, blase blah, but when it's time to really go to the next level, you got to implement some type of new strategy. And I don't care if you're working for somebody or you're running your own thing. So you have missed opportunities that are right in your face. So this is pretty deep right here. So a few years ago, I learned that locusts do not actually fly. They have the keen ability to sense when the wind is coming, and the power that they have is really in their legs. They know when to jump so that they can get caught up in the wind. So they don't get to use the wind at their own discretion, and they didn't create the wind, but they have the ability to know when it's coming and how to take advantage of it and leverage it. So I'm gonna use the example of, offering financing for myself. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't interested in doing any type of financing. Just want to, keep it normal. That sounded kind of like a salesman kind of role, and say, hey, if people want to work, if they want us to work on their car, they want me to do this work, I'm sure they can pay for it. So, but I took advantage of offering finances. I didn't create it, but I jumped at the opportunity and didn't stay in my traditional mindset of doing business. I could have easily missed out on that opportunity sticking to the old dog mentality. So, I didn't want to become that salesman, but after understanding what I was after and understanding the price tags that are now associated with what I do compared to the price tags that I started off with, and then realizing that what we do is no different. I said but it's we. What we do is no different from the car salesman or the furniture salesman, any other type of salesman. And so it only makes sense to me that obviously I had to jump on this bandwagon if I wanted to see any new growth, any new change. Like a lot of us do a lot of complaining, but we don't realize that we're in the old dog mentality. There's so many different opportunities to add something new, implement something new again into your business. And you can't see that this is what's necessary to take flight. And, I harp on the fact that this is a super blue collar industry. When I was in the garage working at the local Dodge dealership, I had a college degree, but I knew 2 years into that degree, I didn't want to do anything with it. I just stuck with it just because, and also because I didn't know what I wanted to do next necessarily. But when I got to the garage, I see all these other detailers, I see all these mechanics. It's like, man, most of these guys don't have any not formal education, forget that, but any other experience outside of doing what they're doing right now, washing the car. Like, how'd you get here? Oh man, I just applied for the job, been here 10 years, and whether that's detailer or mechanic. And so I say that to say, you don't know that you don't know. You don't know that there are other systems that need to be implemented in order for you to get to the next level, and that's why you're crumbling and you're fumbling. So that's really one of my main goals, is to make sure guys don't get stuck in their own ways, because even just coming into this building every day, I can get to the point where it's like, man, nobody detailing anymore, or the cars aren't coming in anymore. But that's not the case. If I look deeply, I really don't even have to look that deeply. If I get on the internet and look around, other people are making it happen. But if you shut yourself off to the rest of the world, you won't even see that the opportunities, number one, are there, and number two, you need to grab them. So, yeah, man. So that is very important to jump with the wind, because you can't control the wind, you don't know when the next opportunity is coming. So if you miss it, like it's a problem. Let's see. All right, here we go. So the next point. So physical exhaustion, working on the things that no longer work, at least not by themselves. So let's just say you're used to, passing out cards and just talking to your neighbors to bring the work in, doing all the things you did in the first week of your business, 5 to 10 years later into the business. Once it stops working, you have to be able to step outside and see what the holdup is. Or your business could be booming, but for how long can it work at this pace without any change before something gets burnt out? Like at any given moment, you have the opportunity to become the old dog. Old dog, new tricks. That scenario doesn't only apply to people who aren't making it happen, who are down and out. You could be the old dog on another level, making a couple mil, and then here's an opportunity to make 100 million, but you don't take it because you can't be taught anything new. You can't be taught a new system. So it's not just for those guys who are down and out. I didn't put this in the notes. I wanted to. I'm glad it just came back to me, but you got to be able to adapt. Actually, it might be in there. I got a bunch of notes here, but just in case, I'm going to throw it in now while it's on my mind. But you got to be able to adapt, because I heard somebody say recently that the new sustainability is adaptability. Like if you want to sustain in anything, like all of the, do this one thing for the next 10 years or put your money here and just let it sit, like none of that stuff is working anymore, because the world is changing so fast. You got to be able to adapt. And this year, I was talking to my wife yesterday. I was like, man, I sat back and thought about it. I've been through a couple of extreme changes in the last, not even a whole year, really in the last 10 months with the business. And, from shifting to having the entire facility, that was a huge shift, to then, actually, it was about 3 shifts. So having the facility, then having a team at the same time, basically having the team came a couple months before that. And then now shifting more so into just building this school. Like, that's a lot of shifting. If I had an old dog mentality, I would have been done, because number one, I would have been upset and furious that it wasn't working like it was working. Like, sometimes I'm scrolling through photos, I'm like, man, that was a good day right there. Like, why can't it just be that every day? But that's a small way of thinking, because there's more to it. If it was that every day, then we wouldn't be doing this right now, So, Sean, I think we talked about this before, man. So this gonna hit home for a bunch of people. But if it was that every day, I'd be burnt out, I'd be tired, because we tune out the fact that we were complaining. When we look back at that picture, it's like, man, that was a good day. We had like 4 or 5 cars in here. We were getting it in. But you only looking at, you got selective memory. You're only looking at the good parts of that day. You forgot that somebody burnt the side view mirror. You forgot to update the customer that day, and they showed up early, and you still had 2 more hours of work. Like, you don't even realize you don't want to be in what you were in. You got to be ready to shift. So you got to be ready to adapt, man. And you got to get comfortable in that. And I'm super comfortable in continuing to move and shake. Like, I can't get comfortable, and nobody should, to tell you the truth, because the second you get comfortable, the moment I made $100,000 for 2 years in a row, and I was like, oh, we made it. And next thing I know, it just shifted. It just stopped. Like, the next year after that, the third year, I'm back to just making enough to get through. But after I look back on it, I'm like, okay, the money came in so that I could have proof to show other detailers that I know what I'm talking about. So really, the money was just a byproduct of getting those cars in to be able to teach. You got the people have to bring you the cars so that you can have something to document. And then once you have something to document, of course, they're going to pay you for doing that. So it only made sense. But that took a while for me to shift out of that. I was like, man, I just started making the money. Like, what happened? Nothing changed. But once you get to a level and you complete that level, now it's time to keep it moving. Even when, I never forget the day I came into the shop and we got 4 people back there working. I'm like, man, I sat and thought about it. I was like, yo, I really don't have to go back there. Maybe it's time for me to get on YouTube. Maybe it's time for me to lock in on this YouTube thing. So, or I could have been like, man, I'm going back in the garage with the guys. But the only people who know that we're in that garage are the owners of those vehicles and the people riding by and see the cars in the parking lot. So it's like, man, if I know I'm supposed to be in front of the rest of the world talking to other detailers, I got to do something new. You got to keep shifting. And the shift always happens right when you get comfortable doing whatever it is you're doing. So remember that one. So again, I might have that note pop up in a minute, but I had to bring up the adaptability piece just in case. So the inability to scale. So not wanting to get in front of a camera. I didn't want to get in front of a camera, but I knew that was going to be the way that we start scaling. I had to run the advertisements locally and let these folks know we do exist. But I did not want to get in front of that camera. I didn't want any local guys who I grew up with knowing what I was doing. I didn't want them to see the building I was in. I didn't want we live on the main road in the neighborhood that I grew up in. The last place I said I would buy a house, the only house that fit the description for what we could afford at the time, was on the main road, at the very end of the main road. And I was like, man. So now that it's time to advertise the business, I'm like, I don't want to put myself on blast, but I had to be willing to adapt to that and go with the flow. If you continue to stay in that mindset of the solo journeyman, like, I'm going to work by myself, I don't need a team, then you'll never be able to adapt to the new tricks required to learn and understand leadership. You can't really be a leader. Let's just say Eli was in the building with me for a couple years, but he was working with the other guys, and I'm working by myself. Yeah, I'm talking to him. Yeah, we having some coaching moments. I'm pointing stuff out, but it's a whole different thing for me to be dealing with him directly every day on a true leadership role, as it is to, hey, he's coming over here every couple minutes, or I talk to him every hour, something like that. That's a whole different vibe. And so the only way that I could get to that is to adapt that mindset of, hey, let's become like a full-blown leader. When you go from leading dudes who've been 17, 18 to having 52-year-olds, about to be 50, guys almost 60 years old. I've been leading people who are of all ages, man. That's a different type of leadership, and it requires that mindset shift from, hey, I'm going to do this thing on my own, or I just want a couple guys to, like, you got to be ready to bring on whoever whoever's ready to work with you, who fits the description, they can complete the job. If you have the vehicles, you need people to work on those vehicles. You got to be ready to lead those people. It's not just about collecting that money. You got to build that leadership mentality as well, that leadership muscle. So let's see. Here we go. So, and the other note I had there was, I made the decision to figure out how to come up with a system for a team to duplicate. So before it was, man, it's hard to train people doing this. This is artwork. This is, everybody can't get this. And it's true. Everybody might not be able to do the work like I'm doing it. And I was actually frustrated in that, but I was also locking my mindset into like, this is just what it is. This is the truth. When really it was a fact, but the truth was, I can come up with a system that everybody else can follow, and then I can come behind it and use my artwork capabilities to fine tune whatever they do. So if you want to hear the rest of that call, join us in the Pro Polishers Academy. We'd love to have you in there. No matter if you're a seasoned vet or somebody just getting into the detailing world, or you're thinking about getting into it, we love to help anybody who's interested in this industry get to where they're trying to go. It's only $99 a month. You get access to the full Discord. You have the call archive where you can go back and listen to the full call from today, the Old Dogs New Tricks call, and any other call that we've had in the past. And you can get in on our live calls on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as well as get access to our full-blown course where we go over every pad, product, and tool that we use to grow and scale our business and to help those guys who might be in need wherever they are around the country. Hey, that's it for today, guys. We'll see you next time. The paint is waiting on you. Peace.